I'm ready to start streaming.
Good morning,
Tony Caravan.
You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, and not what you don't.
Okay.
Oh, no.
it's the holiday season.
All right. I kind of rushed this show together because I made the mistake on Locals of putting up an intro saying I'd be on at 3. It's 3:03 a.m. Eastern Time. And as you can see behind me, if you can notice, there's the Christmas hat that I had been wearing. So today I just have on the old polo hat. And actually, I'm wearing... You don't know what you don't know. Which kind of is a theme of this show, I guess. Is it time to throw in the towel? 7 December 21. That's the title of this show. However, the title card itself, and what I'm doing is because I wanted to get on the air, because I said I'd be on at 3, I didn't finish getting all of my... everything in place. So, for example, this is the title card. We are but grains of sand in the grand scheme of things. We'll get into that in a little bit. Also, I'm just double checking. Here is our star. Forgive me, folks. I just felt it was more important that I get on so you know that I was here rather than not. What I'm going to do is I'm featuring, I guess all this week I'm going to be featuring my own music. But let's just get into this. First of all, there's been some crazy stuff going on. And so for the news today, I just wanted to show this. This is from like West Hawaii today. Beach parks closed, rainfall continues. And you might hear this might be overinflated by the the mainstream media, American press, whatever, the news readers, the corporate news readers. But there has been some inclement weather in Hawaii, and they are dealing with the flood. You could see my dock is on here. I didn't even get a chance to crop that out. So since we're starting with that, I might as well.
The Weather Watch forecast.
So here's what it looks like right now in the former United States. And I'll tell you, last night, of course, for most people in my area, it still is last night, the wee hours of the morning. I'm in the mid-Atlantic states on the eastern side of the former United States. It was so windy last night. So I went out this morning to see if any more shingles fell off the top of my roof because I've been having that ongoing leaking problem. And I hadn't seen any on the one side, but I did notice it's garbage day, and one of my garbage bags was clear across the street. So I had to go fetch that and put that back in place. The wind seems to have died down. And you can see the clouds. If you look towards the east coast, you could see that band of clouds has left. But it looks like there's some more activity coming from from basically California and the Pacific Northwest, and it's heading eastward. I'm basically, east of the Ohio Valley, mid-Atlantic states, that general vicinity. I always like to say I'm about a mile away from one of the entrances to the Northern Appalachian Trail, though I have no intention of hiking that thing. You can see there's probably some lake effect snow happening right now. The temperatures in my neck of the woods at this current time have dropped substantially. From yesterday, it was like high 50s, and now it's 28 degrees. We won't get above freezing today, and tonight's low will be in the 20s, and tomorrow we'll barely get into the 30s, maybe the mid 30s, but overnight it'll be like 23, and Thursday is looking to be a carbon copy of that. Though there is this thing on the weekend showing that it may go up to 50 on Friday and rain, and Saturday even 63. I can't imagine that happening, but it's quite possible. Anyway, those lights are your major cities, major markets closest to where you may live, and you pretty much can see what's going on. If there's some aggressive clouds leaving the East Coast, but there's like a new system coming in. But see, there's still this southerly flow, so it's very quite possible that if this southerly flow continues and kind of pushes that westerly flow back up north, that it's possible we could see some warmer weather on the eastern part of the U.S. But we'll just have to wait and see on that. It's impossible to tell the weather outside of, say, 48 hours these days.
The Weather Watch forecast.
And that was the Kona satellite, basically NOAA. That's what it looks like right now. I try to bring you things as they happen on this show. I'm sorry for talking fast. I just wanted to. I felt rushed this morning, right? You know, I hate that. And I got up early. You know what it's like when you stay up too late, you know, or you're up, forced up, or maybe you're caffeinated. And I'm not that type of person, though I'm drinking coffee right now. Sorry if you heard that slurp. And it's on my coffee heater. I just did a review for this thing, the $9 coffee mug heater, warmer, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, you know, it's like this coffee's got to wake me up, and I don't like to rely on caffeine for that type of thing. But I knew I could have laid in bed, you know, for another hour or so, but I don't think I would have went back. Fell back to sleep. I don't like getting up, you know, at 1:30, 2 in the morning. But I did, and it still takes an hour to put this show together, you know, to do it live. And then like an idiot, I went on Locals, TonyCaravanLive.locals.com, and said I was going to be on at 3. So anyway, I was only 3 minutes late with that. So
Quality, quantity, and variety.
ROCKFLUX.
Let's get this show on the road.
all right, and it's a one-man show in case you're new coming on here. Let's just look at some of the basics, and then we'll get into our discussion. Bitcoin has made a little, you know, slight comeback. The problem with Bitcoin and cryptos right now is that they're being traded. And so, you know, it's hard to really put them in a category outside of, you know, in other words, the Wall Streeters, the big bankers have gotten their dirty hands onto cryptocurrency now. And so their ability to manipulate it, the way they've manipulated everything and manipulate the stock market and and print fiat currencies, etc. So, and remember, other problem with digital currency is that it's subject to, electricity, the grid, the power grid, and a CMA knocks out, the power grid, a satellite, or what have you, and you're screwed. And if in the case of, I don't know if I still have it up here or not. These are active volcanoes around the world, but I mean, let me see if I still have it here. And no, the Christmas. Okay. In any event, we're still on Bitcoin down close to 20%, even though there has been a push up. We were at 48 yesterday. And when I say we, it's not really me, but you know what I'm saying. Invest at your own risk, but, that's a pretty hefty investment to take. So I don't know. La Palma. We talked about Indonesia, and I showed you those pictures yesterday of that truck buried in ash. You can see this picture is one of the latest pictures from La Palma. It's still active. There was like a whole series of earthquakes around 3.5 magnitude, but still it's active. And you could see some lava shooting out here at one point, but you see that ash going into the sky. And considering what I just showed you moments ago, and we'll just pull that up again, that, you look at the Pacific Ring of Fire, and you can see all of these various volcanoes, active volcanoes, that, this is nothing brand new, as I mentioned yesterday. But the point is, there's a lot of activity right now. A lot of stuff is coming to life. It's because of our weakened magnetic field on the planet right now. Because of what's going on with the sun as well. And these cosmic rays are coming in. They're heating up the magma in the earth. And of course, it's creating more activity. But, there's far more dimming of the sun from the various ash plumes that are coming out of all of these volcanoes around the world than from some trace gas of CO2, which is 0.004% of the atmosphere. Remember, and I talked about this yesterday, but I'm going to jackhammer it into your head. 99.9% of the atmosphere of this planet is nitrogen, oxygen, and argon. And things like CO2, water vapor, methane are but trace gases. And even though CO2 is a trace gas, it greens the planet and provides us with crops. So whatever psycho crazy conditioning indoctrination that's going on, all right, by the media and this World Economic Forum, and Klaus, it's like, it's just an outright lie. Anyway, so yeah, La Palma is far from being done, and like I say, and there are plenty of other volcanoes. You can look to Ecuador, had an eruption just last week, and like I say, Saturday there was an eruption in Indonesia. It's there's orange alerts in Hawaii and just outside of Alaska, the chain of islands of Alaska. So we're in a very volatile time right now. And it would be no time to be investing in things that are contingent. And it's wintertime for people in the Northeast, or the northern latitudes, let's put it that way. This is no time to be investing in things that require you to have electricity. Let me just put it that way, okay? As far as our daily music feature, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep featuring the worst Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa song ever written or sung all this week, I think. Get it. I've got 50 beat poetry tracks. This is the seasonal classic, and why not? Okay? I'm not gonna push it because I've said it before, and how much can you say about it? Let's look at that title card. I think I got there. Did I get to everything? Pretty much so. All right. My VU meter. There we go. So we are but grains of sand in the grand scheme of things. And we're looking at this NASA photo, which is actually a still from a video I have, showing the motions of the planets in our solar system. and our star there, of course, in the center. Now, you can't even see Earth here. That's the important thing. You can see Saturn and Jupiter, but you can't see Earth. Some people might think, oh, that thing next to the sun. No, Earth is, in comparison to the sun. And when I show this thing, we're we're a speck, okay? I mean, we're a dot. We're about the size of like one of those planets, smaller than what the sun looks like in this picture on the screen, in scale of this. Okay, so you see that little sun there? Imagine something maybe about that size, perhaps even a little smaller. Somewhere there, and then look at that outburst from the sun. That's the Earth. That's how small the Earth is in comparison to our star. And the title of this show, like I say, is it time to throw in the towel? And what I mean about that is that, I'm seeing too many people that are trying desperately to hold on to some sort of traditional constitutional republic lifestyle, right? Or thinking that they could change the government in some way on a macro scale. In other words, by the traditional elections and all that sort of stuff. And they have what's called hope. And while hope is I guess is a good thing to have, it's not as good as the courage to succeed on your own and with others. And at this juncture, the key thing is not to try to look for some cult of personality hero to save you. It's not to allow them to manipulate you in that the phoenix is going to rise from the ashes of this fallen Western civilization in the former United States. It's time for you to live, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness is for you to pursue happiness, which basically means a good quality of life, independent of those who have basically seized control of the world on a global basis. What I call an organized crime syndicate, right? And what I call this country a corporatocracy. And I know that's hard for a lot of people to accept. They don't want to hear it. It's understandable. I mean, I don't blame you. I don't blame some people for thinking that's like giving up. Well, I'm not talking about giving up. All right? What I'm talking about is putting yourself first and not looking to some elected politician, bureaucrat, or some corporate entity, multi-billionaire financier that has bought themselves into a power situation and has seized control of what were once nation states and turned them into corporatocracies. And now being run by the World Economic Forum, and these guys are pulling the strings, and it's nothing short of an organized crime syndicate. I apologize for that, and
Really funny. Really funny.
I know. I am just a human being, you know? What can I say?
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
This is a one-man show. I push all the buttons and do all the things. I do not know if our Christmas girl is apropos in holding on to our sign, but I'll keep her there for a little while. Anyway, it's the holiday season, isn't it? So enjoy the holiday season. It's a tradition. Like I say, that's Americana.
It's the holiday season.
And no matter, they can't take away, your freedom, because freedom is a state of mind, right? Freedom isn't, them telling you to do this, don't do that, right? That's not depriving you of your freedom. Freedom is your state of mind and your ability to rise above these things, to break free of those shackles. And whether those shackles are actually made of some kind of forged steel, or whether or not they're just imaginary shackles. And see, at this time, in history, most of the shackles are just words. They're words. By media, social media, traditional media, mainstream media, cable channels that get viewership that reaches 1/3 of 1% of the population. But then maybe on social media, someone picks it up and turns it into a meme or puts a clip of something on, and then it goes viral, and then it reaches, a wider audience. But no one really ever watches those stations except, people who are already true believers. It's the preaching to the choir thing. And so it's a state of mind if you want to be free, right? And you have to see that. And if you don't like, the situation you're in, if you don't like the place where you live, it's time you start thinking about moving to a place where you can be free and have the quality of life that you desire. Like I've said 1,000 times, I did it. It's not something you can just do overnight. In my book over here, Then What, my latest book, it's it's autobiographical. It's a flow of consciousness, but I've got 1 or 2 forms in there that kind of give you some ideas on how to get your mind together, figure it out. Some mental exercises, get a handle on your budget, what it costs to live. Are you a wage slave or and when I say a wage slave, some people think, oh, that sounds like some far left type of statement from some socialist communist type of ideology. No. You could be earning 6 figures, even 7 figures, and be a wage slave. You may not be punching a clock, right? You may be just getting a salary, a big fat check once a month deposited into your bank account, and still be a wage slave. And the idea is that because if all your money is going into paying some hefty rent, mortgage, taxes, insurance, an overpriced vehicle, and other expenses that aren't contributing to your quality of life, then, maybe it's time to rethink, what you're doing. When I basically, then I'm not recommending people do what I did, but basically what I've done is I basically live pretty much at the poverty level now. I found a cheap house. Regular viewers of this show will know what I'm talking about. My taxes, mortgage, and insurance are under $200. Okay? Now, I know that's hard to believe for some people. And they say, well, where are you living? You living in the ghetto? No. I'm living outside a former industrial town that has access to, I'm sorry, my headphones. What the? I'm sorry. My headphones got caught underneath the wheel of this crappy chair I have. All right. So, I had to do that. I live in a former industrial town. There's a railroad that comes through here. You could take a train east or west. They have a symphony orchestra, if you are into that, a ballet. There's culture here. Though some people would think these people are, I wouldn't use the word redneck, but, they might say that. But it has, I have high-speed internet. I'm doing a live show here. I have all the accoutrements, It's just that I live at a level that I'm not dependent upon certain material things for show. You see, my quality of life is, am I comfortable? I have I have a yard with a south-facing garden. So I grow my food for half the year here. But I'm not a homesteader. I'm connected to the grid. I mean, I'd love to be disconnected to the grid, but at this level of income, which gives me freedom, and that's why I have all these statements on this screen you're seeing, freedom is fun being one of them, is that I don't have enough money to invest, at this level, $8, $10, $20,000 into some kind of crazy solar system. I have a solar panel on a mini greenhouse I built for about $50 with scrap materials and some stuff I bought, at a box store before the price of lumber went way up. But that's just me. And if you read my books, I have 10 books out there, I tell the story. And however, you may decide, that there's certain things you need and certain things you want. So you want to live at a higher level. It's just that at this level that I live, as I've pointed out in the past, by living below the poverty line, okay, I'm not required. I live just below the poverty line. You see this IRS thing? What does it say? Do I need to file a tax return? Right? I've read this before, probably 2 times before. I'm going to read it again today. Do I need to file a tax return? You are not required to file a tax return for 2020. This is me asking them for last year. And I'm not going to ask them this year because they already told me. You are not required to file a tax return because your income does not equal or exceed $12,400, nor do you owe any special taxes or have any situations that require you to file. Now you say, how could you live on that amount of money? Well, if your taxes, mortgage, and insurance are under $200, think. Right? You could easily live on $1,000 a month. especially when I grow in my backyard half the year's worth of my food. You see what I'm saying? I got a thing. I have to save it the next time it comes. Because I threw it out the last time. I got a thing from the electric company saying that I was the most efficient person, in usage of electricity in the neighborhood. Because I don't use that much electricity. These things, this computer and stuff, these are all that Energy Star type of stuff, right? And if you look in the background here, I'm going to get rid of this. I've got this Jackery thing here, which is basically powering, this on-air light and these lights here, right? This thing has been doing that now for well over a week. I charge it, once a month or so. But, even though it's powering that, it hasn't dropped below 100%. Yeah, it's still at 100%. Because LED lights, and I have grow lights inside, and I think I still have it here. This is some chopped, I showed this several shows ago, but the circled radishes there at the top were grown on my back porch in the wintertime. Look how nice they are. These other vegetables I bought at the grocery store. I try to eat healthy. The point of the matter is, so someone like me, and I can brew my own beer. In fact, I'm just about ready to brew some beer. But, you'd be surprised. And I have a roof. This house, obviously if my mortgage is that cheap, this is no mansion. But, and I have a leaky roof in a couple of spots that I've had to patch from the inside out because it's almost it's a Dutch colonial house. And if you understand how a roof is, like the pitch of the roof, it's like a double roof in a Dutch colonial. The upper area is steeper than the side. So the sides aren't so much of a problem as the upper area, or where the part that's at this angle meets the part that's at this angle. That gives that Dutch, like the Dutch hat type of look. Like I say, it's almost pagoda-esque in a sense, when you think about that. And when you look at ancient, like really ancient history, you could almost see the influence there, of the commonality of culture from, way back in the millennia. But at that point where the two sections of the roof meet, and like I said, last night it was windy like mad. And this is over 100-some-year-old house that I've lost some shingles, and I can't get up there, and I can't find anybody with a ladder tall enough to get up there. I had one guy; he had a 36-foot ladder, and it wouldn't reach. So I have a plan next spring. I'm going to actually cut a hole in the roof through the attic, and I'm going to put in like a trap door and seal it, kind of like you would seal a ship's door or submarine door. Like really a tight, seal with a gasket. But I'm going to do that so I could either find a roofer and say, hey, you can access the roof through my attic. Don't worry about it. Or I may cut open that trap door at the area where I have this bad leak. And so in effect, either put in a trap door or put in a skylight there or something to solve the problem. In other words, kill, two birds with one stone, so to speak. But anyway, let me get rid of the girl. And you can see behind me, it's plenty, You could almost see over there the guy with the thing on his face, the mannequin. But, life is good otherwise, and, in years gone by, people didn't, a leaky roof is not the end of the world. It's a hassle, but you got to do something, right? And so I managed to survive. This is just my choice. Now, you may choose a different path. But the key is that you've got to choose some path. And you see yourself in perspective, right? And so when I say it's time to throw in the towel, which is the title underneath this, what I call title card, I guess YouTube refers to these as thumbnails. My glasses almost got steamed up on that. Yeah, I think it is time to throw in the towel. It's like, I used to be somebody I used to know used to say, I think there would be a response to some kind of thing. And they would say, win what, right? Lead what, right? Win what, lead what? Someone would say, and you should take charge of that thing, right? And their response would be like, lead what? You should be the leader of that. Lead what? Right? Well, so we could win, and win what? It's like my approach to sports. It's like when I was younger, I played sports. When I was a kid, I played like what they called minor league baseball. And in junior high and freshman year in high school, I played football. But, it was, it was a game. I did it. And then I decided to get involved in a band, But the idea, what turned me off and why I'm not a big sports person, and what turns me off, used to turn me off when I used to hang out, in frequent bars and stuff after work when I was doing the job thing. And I talk about this too often, is, people's minds were filled with statistics. I can't talk to morning brain fog. Statistics. And so they'd be watching, you're sitting at a bar thinking you're going to have a conversation, which is nothing like conversations and the concept of being social in present, right? Not through some, electronic, over a wire. And so here you are sitting at this bar, a chance to be social, to carry on a conversation, the exchange of ideas, right? Which is one of my most favorite things, all right, to do. And you're sitting next to someone, may well be a friend, or a coworker or something like that, and they're just spouting out batting averages or, right, statistics about, this, that, the other. And I'm going, it's a frickin' game, man. And the funniest thing about the whole game is that once they get into the playoffs and then somebody wins the World Series or they win the Super Bowl or whatever it is, whatever the particular sport happens to be, then the thing starts all over again. Now, I understand, I can enjoy the concept of playing, particularly when I was younger, not so much now. And there were times I could enjoy watching a game from a standpoint of getting into the, the way you're rooting for a particular side, it's something innate in us. And I don't know if that goes back to the days of, the days of armies, not like modern day armies, but the days of real battle, with swords, that sort of thing, And so in many ways, when you look at something like a football game, I guess, and I'm not really talking it up because, quite frankly, I haven't watched a game in a while. But it's the idea that there are people facing off against one another, and they don't have, and it's man versus man. You see. And, now I guess the Olympic Games are going on, coming up in February, and I understand that the current administration has pulled some kind of political thing with China, as if that's going to make a difference. My chair is falling down. Yeah, I know.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
Some of the downfalls of not having all the luxuries of life. But I can live with it. This coffee's pretty good, by the way. It's a mixture of hazelnut, vanilla, roast, and 100% Colombian coffee. Just all thrown in this big coffee can. Kind of like take the spoon and kind of go deep. I know the Colombian's down the bottom, and I added this hazelnut bag I guess it was like, what did I say, vanilla roast? I think it was vanilla roast, something like that, to the top. And kind of just loosely mixed it up, but didn't thoroughly mix it up. So I could, if I feel more hazelnutty, I could, pull from the top, more from the top than the Colombian. But anyway, and I'm no coffee connoisseur. So I just say that in passing. But let's get back into this thing. This is a flow of consciousness like all my shows. Imagine these bureaucrats, these politicians, these people who find themselves to be so, consider themselves self-important. It's like the media talking heads I talk about. And that's what I mean, but we're grains of sand in the grand scheme of things. They don't see themselves in perspective, right? It's like when you get in an airplane and you look down. You don't see people. You see trees, waterways, apportioned farmland, that type of thing. And if you get close to a very a metropolitan area, yeah, you'll see that city. But at decent altitude in a good jet, you don't. People are invisible. They're not even ants. Okay. In some instances, you can't even see cars. Right. At a good altitude. And so, when it's a humbling experience, to realize that you're on this planet. And then, like I say, when you consider that this planet that we live on is just a tiny little ball that would fit, within that CME or solar, outburst, it would fit in like the smallest little area where it kind of gets thinner towards the end. It's about where we would fit. Like I say, we'd be about the size of the sun in this picture on the screen, if we were placed into this picture of the sun, in that photo of the sun. So, and when I was out this morning, when I had to go run across the street at 2 a.m. and grab one of my garbage bags, because I put my garbage out. I live on the main street here, or the main drag. I don't know what you would call it. I'm on the outskirts of town. I don't live in the city. And so I leaned my garbage bags, and I had 2 this time. And one of them was very light because I forgot like some garbage from the previous week. That was mainly just light stuff. Like, not to get into the details what my trash is. And so what I tried to do is that my kitchen garbage bag, which tends to be, and I use garbage bags. I don't have garbage cans. All right. My kitchen garbage tends to be heavier, right? Just by the nature of it. If there's canned goods in there or, whatever. And so this other bag was lighter because it was just lighter things. Things from like my porch where I have trying to do some indoor growing. Things from like upstairs, that kind of stuff. Just light trash, right? And so I tried to wedge, and, I normally just have one garbage bag. I just put one bag out. I double bag it, put it out. That's it. All right. But like I said, I missed some stuff. So I had this lighter bag. So I put this lighter bag behind the kitchen bag, which was heavier, and I thought I was wedging it against this pole in front of my house and that should hold it. I'm wheezing. I have no idea why. And so I thought, and normally that would be fine. But last night, in the middle of the night, I awoke to these winds, like gale force winds. And I wasn't even thinking about my garbage bag. But this morning I went out to see if any tiles, roofing tiles had fallen off the roof. Because, winds like that, that's how I got in this pickle I'm in now. Because my roof was fine, but we had this storm about 1.5 years ago that was like wind gusts were like over 50 to 60 miles per hour. And where I am, that's like totally uncommon. I lived in the Gulf Coast of Florida for a short period. And yeah, I experienced a tropical storm. I have a video of it. I took a picture of it out through my window. But not here in the mid-Atlantic, the northeastern area. You don't expect to have tropical force winds. And I'll tell you, we get them in a greater frequency now. And that has something to do with our magnetic field. It has nothing to do with CO2 or some kind of manufactured climate crisis. It has to do with, solar activity and a weakening magnetic field and the fact that our poles are shifting. Like the magnetic South Pole is now left Antarctica. Many of this stuff I talk about on every show, but it always bears repeating. And that affects the jet stream. And sometimes the jet stream gets lower. Right. But, one of the other things I noticed when I went out, and it was quiet. At 2 a.m., it's quiet here. There was no traffic on the street, no nothing, no sounds, no people. And it was cool, cold. They say it was 28 degrees or something like that. Brisk, but it was clear because of that wind. When it just must have cleared out all the clouds. And I looked up in the sky and I actually saw stars, even though there's street lights on this street. Usually I'll see like maybe a morning star or something like that. Maybe look really cool. You might see, see a couple other stars sometimes if you really squint and stare. But there were like more stars visible when I was out in the middle of the street. And then I walked to the side of my house and I saw more stars. And I've been here like 6 years or something like that, and I've never seen that many stars. Very interesting. I don't know if that has to do with anything. It was just very surprising, but it wasn't as if any street lights were out or anything. But that was my inspiration for this title card, this thumbnail. here. Because we don't look at the stars anymore. So we don't, the problem with these people who have these inflated egos, like these people trying to tell us how to live, what to put on our face and what to take, and right, trying to control every aspect of our life. They're not looking up at the stars. They don't see this idea of how the earth is minuscule compared to our star, and that our star is minuscule compared to other stars or the galaxy, right? And the billions of galaxies that form the universe. And then if you zoom into our planet, that the first things you're going to see are oceans and trees, right? You're not going to see people. You're not going to see these people who are trying to tell us that they're in charge of our lives and that we must do this and do that. Otherwise, we're going to be punished or deprived of our freedom. Right? They are the people that need to be, told that they're grains of sand in the grand scheme of things. And the people that sit there and watch these cable news networks all day long, or spend all day on Twitter, Facebook. And I'm not talking about grandma or people that are keeping in touch with their family and showing pictures of their nieces and nephews on Facebook. That's a different thing. Okay? I understand that. You're sharing photo albums, and in today's world, unfortunately, families have spread, like the wind. And it's too bad, because we've lost that sense of community and family. And people get together on holidays. So it's like,
It's the holiday season.
you hope. All right. But in many cases, they don't. And these so-called people, these powers that be, they try to restrict people from getting together, But I notice more and more people, freedom is a state of mind. They ignore it, right? When in Rome, do as the Romans do. The question is, stay out of Rome, man. Like, what are you doing in Rome? Speaking of which, when are they going to open up those Vatican archives and let us see our history? I still say there's probably many scrolls from the Library of Alexandria sitting in those archives. I'd also like to know what was taken out of the Serapeum boxes and from in that alcove underneath the Sphinx, which we now know exists. And I've seen a video of two guys who got caught going down there, but who took pictures of it. So there was something down there, but it's gone. Somebody snagged it. Yesterday's show, the title was How Fragile We Are. And how I was pushing this tale of Earth catastrophe, the 12,000-year cycles, and how the last one around the Younger Dryas and the flash frozen mammoths with undigested food in their stomachs. And that we're in an interglacial period. And so our lives are fleeting. We're like grains of sand. We're minuscule. We're microscopic compared to even in the solar system. The solar system is and many of us have, I'm sure this has crossed your mind if you ever thought, about anything other than sports or politics. But isn't the solar system just reminiscent of the structure of an atom? Molecular structures, right? It's this macro existence that we have, right? And these the unknowable questions. How, what is infinity? How small is a thing? Why can't we calculate pi? Right? And so grains of sand are big compared to, a human being in a galaxy, let alone a universe, and let alone multiverse. Right? And if there are other dimensions, and when you think in terms of the metaphysical, the consciousness, the mind being something separate from the bioelectric brain, right? Your soul, if you will. That whole thing. And so we've reached this point in so-called modernity where we have all this technology, accumulation of knowledge, information stored on computers and server farms. We keep collecting data on people, on things. But we're not really improving the quality of life for the average human being. And even those who have so-called a better quality of life, say the Jeff Bezos of the world. Pardon me, it's hard to talk at this time. It's 3:59 a.m. I should have had more than an apple for breakfast. This coffee is like kind of irritating my stomach. But what kind of quality of life do they really have in a traditional, pure human way? Happiness. What is happiness? Right? The pursuit of happiness. That's quality of life. Isn't it a sense of community? Is it a sense of physical contact? Right? This idea of social distancing has deprived people of embracing, right? You hear wacky stories about people who actually, are making love with masks on. I mean, the absurdity of that. I mean, it's true stories. The stuff, the way people are. The amount, the fear. I don't know if I still have it here. I think I do. I don't, because I don't think I got rid of it. Where is it? I may have. What do we have down here? Forgive me for doing this. What I'm doing is I'm looking down at my I say I didn't have enough time to prepare for this show the way I wanted to. I can't find it. Sorry about that. I guess I could put it here, though. Let me just do this. I built it up, so I have to show it. This is the state in which most people are in right now. How did we get to this point? Think about that. How do people allow themselves to get to that point? How do people with children allow their children to get to that point? And how do people allow literally this small group of people who have seized power, right? Globally, literally a small group, the Davos set, the World Economic Forum, literally several thousand people, right? If you include even their minions, But even if you consider the bureaucrats that they've, are working for them, so they number in, say, several million or 10 million, right? There's 8 billion, nearly 8 billion people on the planet. How are 8 billion people on the planet allowing themselves? In other words, 10% of 8, think of it in terms of percent. I always talk about this in terms of the United States. So let's just do the simple mental math here, so you don't have to be an MIT mathematician to figure this out. Let's just look at this corporatocracy, the former United States. So you've got people in Congress that's like 432 Congress people or something like that. You got, senators, right? White House staffers, various agencies, right? FBI, CIA, NSA, DIA, right? IRS, all these various alphabet agencies. Some spies, some just, in there to take our money. And so they number in millions, okay? There's millions of them. And that goes down even to politicians and, local markets. So let's say that there's 10 million bureaucrats and politicians in this country. Do you think? Something like that? Well, let's say there were 30 million bureaucrats. Let's include everybody down to the garbage collector, right? In, Okeechobee or something. Poughkeepsie. Right? Will it play in Peoria? Used to be a phrase people used to say in the media. Newspaper business. 33 million, let's say. Well, there's 330 million people in the country. That would mean that all the bureaucrats combined are only 10% of the population. And out of those bureaucrats, most of those people are just regular people. So half of them are probably decent people, right? Because the country's, it's divided, red state, blue state, all that kind of stuff. I'm not into politics, but you understand what I'm trying to get at. But from a strictly political Davos set type, the hardliners, the George Soros, Bill Gates, those kinds of people, all that stuff. The guy with the F guy who's like telling us everything, in control of our health. I mean, those type of people might number in 3 million, right? The politicians and those kinds of people, the real manipulators and their minions. Well, that's 1% of the population. And that brings me to this 99% thing I always talk about. So this 1% of narcissistic sociopaths with some psychopaths thrown in have basically seized control of a constitutional republic and turned it into a corporatocracy and are now dictating to us, right, in an authoritative manner, turning us into a totalitarian police state. 1% of the population over 99% of the people. And that 1%, right, is forcing the 99%, many of whom are like this character in the Scream painting. And then there's the 99% of people who didn't get that thing, didn't die from that thing. Okay? But for some reason, this won't go away and they just keep building it up. Then there's 99% of the people that don't watch cable news. Right? And then there's 99% of the Earth's atmosphere that's not composed of CO2. All these 99s. And so how are we, in fact, in the atmosphere's case, it's 99.9%. In the case of that thing, it's 99.8%, right? The thing that, they keep pushing. 99.7, 99, something in that ballpark. Cable ratings, some of these cable channels that people watch, like the CNNs and stuff, some of these characters that, people talk about, they reach like 1/3 of 1% of the population. Combined, you take a Fox, MSNBC, and CNN combined, and they're lucky during certain day parts to reach 1% of the population. 99% of the people aren't watching them. Right? And they're managing to scare the crap out of people and manipulate people and control us. And we're just letting that happen. Now, I say we, but not me. And that's the thing. And that's why I'm trying to tell you, freedom is a state of mind. Because once you realize that you have a choice, you can be this, you can be, scared to death for the rest of your life and allow your offspring to grow up not being embraced, not knowing a sense of community, and being scared to death, right? Or you could realize that these people are nothing more than grains of sand, just like we are. They're no better than us. No one put them in charge of, telling us, dictating what we should do with our bodies, right? We don't even give our own doctors that, that power. I mean, I don't know about you, but when you go in for a consultation, and I've had some operations, I've had some health issues. And when they tell you, when I had a cancer diagnosis, which is in my book, and they said, you have prostate cancer. And you have a choice. Here's what we could do. A radical prostatectomy. There's radiation treatment. And there's different kinds of radiation treatment they have. I mean, I don't want to get into weirdness. And, I'm like, apart once I get over the shock, when someone gives you some kind of diagnosis like that, it's a little bit shocking. And I basically said, well, let me think about it. I'll think about it. And I thought about it, and I made my decision. I decided to, cut the damn thing out, which they did. And knock on wood, I've been good for a couple of years. But the point is, the doctor didn't, my own doctor, my own potential surgeon didn't say, you have to go under the knife or you have to take the radiation. Do you see? We don't even give our own doctor that power. When you go, when you go to the emergency room and they say, well, we'd like to take a CT scan or something like that, the nurse will say, it's up to you. Or we want to give you a chest x-ray. They don't say, we're giving you a chest x-ray. I mean, unless you come in on a gurney and you're unconscious and bleeding out, then, yeah, it's like the ER deal. But I'm talking about if you go in, you've got a problem. And it's happened to me already. Like I said, I've had some health issues, like I say, I knock on wood, I'm okay right now, but it happens, as you get older and stuff. But we don't even give our own doctors or medical professionals the right, the dictatorial, power over our bodies. So why would we give these people who aren't even elected officials? We didn't vote. I certainly didn't vote for anybody. And this guy with, whose name begins with F, who I don't think he can say on this channel, right? Like, who put them in charge, and why would they have more power than our own physician, right? So it's like, I don't know, doesn't make sense. And I don't know why people, they allow that to happen. Like I say, freedom is a state of mind. You have to be your own person. You can't allow yourself to be manipulated. And certainly it makes no sense whatsoever, to allow yourself to be, I'm trying to find this thing. Keep losing track of some of my slides. When you're a one-man show, it sometimes, it's like,
Oh, no.
I'll try to keep this thing light. I don't want to get too serious with this. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because that's the other thing. Have you noticed how there's like no sense of humor? Real. And that comedy, I've touched on this a couple times before. That comedy today is like insulting. Like, I don't watch the late night comics, but, like everyone else, because of the internet, these clips are around, so you occasionally catch some clip, or somebody's criticizing something, and in the middle of their spiel, they'll have a little clip of something. And these late night talk show comics, they call themselves comics, but they're not comedians. They're just political ideologues, trying to push some sort of, shove something down people's throats and fearmonger. But their comedy is making fun of people, right? It's at other people's expense is another way of putting it, right? It's not like a joke, right? Or something funny. It's not like Rodney Dangerfield or something. Do you know what I mean? Or something. It's not just comedy. The Human Condition, say, which was usually comedy. We find things, innately funny when it's something we can relate to in the human condition, like it's happened to us, right? That's comedy. That's humor, all right? Not something at the expense of others. You see? And that's what these late night so-called talk show hosts, that's what it is. It's comedy at the expense of somebody else. And it's pushing an ideology. That's not comedy, right? And so we've lost humor. We've lost that aspect of, fun. And that's why I say, freedom is a state of mind. Happiness is something that you have to pursue. And quality of life is happiness. And none of these bureaucrats, these dictators, these corporatists, right? Big pharma, big data, big tech, military contractors, Wall Street, high finance, central banks, right? And we didn't put them in charge of our lives. And we certainly didn't put them in charge of our bodies as far as our health is concerned. And so why are people following them in lockstep? That's the question. Like, I don't. And some people think, there's this fear, oh, we must. Well, the point is, freedom is a state of mind. Break the chains now mentally, okay? Through your consciousness, through your mind, not this conditioned bioelectric brain that they've indoctrinated people through school systems and propagandized through media, conditioned you through, all of these social media platforms and political stump speeches and everything else, pop culture, politics is pop culture, and these political figures, it's a cult of personality. You have to break free of those mental shackles, because if you don't break free of the mental shackles, guess what? They're going to become actual physical shackles. And you have to look at like countries like Australia, what's going on there. Where it may be too late for some people there. They're already throwing people into camps who don't abide by their dictates. And their dictates are about what a person's personal decision about their own body. The type of authority that we don't even grant our own physicians, right? We get a second opinion, or we tell our doctor, well, let me think about that. But these dictators, right? Unelected dictators are telling us, you do this or we'll lock you up. I've seen in some countries they're pushing as high as $90,000 fines for people that don't, take the thing, In other places, it's as low as like $5,000. Well, $5,000 is a lot of money for an average person. Or you get locked up. I mean, this is insanity. It's mass insanity, and it's global insanity. But the idea is that, like I say, freedom is a state of mind. And freedom is fun, and freedom is quality of life, and you can live it. You just have to take charge. Take control of yourself again. It's like we were all caught up in some kind of like mesmerized, a dream world, and and everyone suddenly got frightened, scared to death, and like we forgot that we're free, we're individuals, and that just like we're like grains of sand when in the grand scheme of things. Well, so are these people. Who are they? Who are these people? They're just people. They're people no different than you or I. In most cases, they're narcissistic sociopaths or psychopaths, right? Megalomaniacs, right? I mean, that Klaus guy from the World Economic Forum, like I said before, he's in league with some of the great dictators of all time. And then the greatest dictator is Xi from communist China, where they actually have modern day gulags and they have slave labor and nets underneath, suicide nets underneath various plants where these people are forced, basically forced labor. And what are they doing? What's the latest news? Oh, we're not going to send diplomatic representatives to the Winter Olympics in February, but the athletes can go, and companies like BlackRock, these big investment companies, they could have, they could invest in China and do business with them, and of course, China owns major chunks of our entertainment industry, real estate, media, Wall Street investment. We don't care about that. It's the same with these other characters. You know the names, you know the lists, right? So, when I say, maybe it's time to throw in a towel, that's not a cop-out. That's not quitting. I'm not talking about quitting. I'm talking about stop trying to build back better or save America, or the Great Reset has already happened. Western civilization, as we've known it, has fallen. The United States, the constitutional republic for which it stood, no longer stands. This is the former United States. It's been hijacked. It's been taken over. And you're not going to save America through the cult of personality of an individual, through some sort of pop culture politics. It's the individual, and it's individuals coming together in community that are going to improve our quality of life. And if there's going to, if there will be anything that even resembles a phoenix rising from the ashes, it's going to be a process of individuals and the communities they form gradually ignoring these little dictators that think they're in charge of our bodies, where we can go, what we can do, what we can eat, how we can fuel, how we can heat our homes or drive our vehicles, right? These people are so emboldened that they think, some of them are actually thinking that they're going to dim the sun over a 0.004 CO2, which is a trace gas in the atmosphere. It's a trace gas. But that very trace gas is the thing that greens the planet and allows us to have crops and food, which in turn, by greening the planet, the trees, gives us oxygen to breathe. And that 99.9% of the atmosphere is not CO2 or methane. They're trace gases. 78% of the atmosphere is nitrogen. 21% of the atmosphere is oxygen. 0.9% is argon. All right? That's 99.9% of our atmosphere. It's a nitrogen planet, actually, if you think about it. These people are just lying, outright lying, fear-mongering, and have people scared out of their wits for no reason whatsoever other than they want power. They're megalomaniacs. They're narcissistic sociopaths, and many of them are psychopaths. Like that Klaus guy. He's this freaking psychopath. And that, guy with the F who's telling us, who thinks he's in control of our health, is a psychopath, man. That guy's a psychopath. I don't say that like lightly, I say I'm sincere. So, yeah. But at the same time, like I said,
It's the holiday season.
it's the holiday season. And, you can enjoy the holidays. These people can't take that away from you. You see this behind me, this set I've set up. You can have fun. They can't, it's like the idea is that, if you allow yourself to be manipulated, if you allow somebody to, it's like going to an amusement park, all right? And it sounds like the House of Horrors or something, or people that get a thrill from going on a roller coaster or something, right? That's your choice. If you want to be scared, that's fine. If you get some sort of like rush from that, okay. But the ride is over, all right? Ends when you go to the amusement park. And as far as I'm concerned, and I made this decision a long time ago, that I'm not going to go on that roller coaster. I don't need to go into some House of Horrors. Nobody's going to tell me what to do with my body. Nobody's going to tell me how to live my life. Freedom is a state of mind, and I choose to be free. And when I say maybe it's time to throw in the towel, what I'm saying is that you have to avoid these people. It's the same way as avoiding some, there's two ways you can deal with a schoolyard bully. All right. One is to just walk away or avoid the idiot. All right. I mean, the other way is to, knock them out. All right. But the problem is that sometimes these schoolyard bullies, they never give up. So you knock them out, and then they're going to try to blindside you sometime. Get even. You see? It's a never-ending thing. But I ignore them. I lived in New York City years ago, lived and worked there. I left. If I were in New York right now, I'd be packed and on my way out. I'm not there now. I lived in Los Angeles. I lived in Malibu, but I lived in Sunset Boulevard for a while. Had an office there. I left years ago, and if I would be there now, I'd be packing and leaving. I lived in Capitol Hill. Lived and worked in Capitol Hill. Walking distance to the Washington Mall. Used to go to the Smithsonian, all that kind of stuff. I could just walk from my townhouse. All right? If I were there now, I'd be packing and leaving. The idea is, I don't want to be around those people. And I made a decision 5 or 6 years ago to move here, to the outskirts of a former industrial town, that has all of the things that I need to survive without, them manipulating, without me having to worry about people trying to manipulate my life and tell me what to do. I have my own house. I own it. I have a yard. I can grow my own food. But I'm not a homesteader. I live on a street. It's a neighborhood. I just happen to have a south-facing yard where I can grow vegetables and stuff, and I get a pretty good yield. So, and my cost of living is low. So, anyway, I'm going to cut today's show a little bit short. But
Good morning.
I'll talk to you tomorrow. I think I made my point.